Hello and welcome to February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and we're also reading Leviticus 8 through 10. One of those is very much more important than the other, and I don't care about Valentine's Day, so you can guess which one is which. In Leviticus 8 through 10, these chapters cover Moses' appointing of the priests, how he actually kind of plays the role of priest for a moment, and their initial offerings to God to instill them in their new roles. We then talk about Nadab and Abihu, who have been ordinated to be priests, but kind of, off themselves, and it's not very pretty, but, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. If you're interested in a more detailed breakdown of all of these chapters, chapter 8 starts out with the ordination of Aaron and his sons. Aaron being the high priest, being Moses' brother, he is appointed to be the high priest in charge of everything, and his four sons, Nadab, Abihu, Ithamar, and Eleazar, they are appointed, I don't think I got that order right, but whatever, they're appointed to be the first priests. Soon, we're just going to have two of them, Ithamar and Eleazar, but again, we'll get to that in chapter 10. Moses ends up offering sacrifices for them. He ends up ordaining them. He ends up playing the priest that ordains the priest to make them holy before God before Aaron starts to take over that role. He does so in chapter 9. Moses kind of steps aside and Aaron steps up to make the first sacrifices and to start into that role of high priest and to get used to that new function that he's going to play for the rest of his life. He is called to be a priest. He is called to be the arbiter of differences between God and man. That is going to be Aaron's role here on out. That's what the high priest does especially, and that's really what every priest does, which is a shame because when you get to chapter 10, you get to two priests who kind of neglect that role entirely. Nadab and Abihu, who are Aaron's oldest two sons from, I do believe, they end up going before the Lord and taking in some kind of fire that is not authorized. They do something, we're not exactly clear on what, they do something specifically against God's law and offer it right to God's face and pretend like that's fine. But God's not fine with that. And so instead of accepting their offering of fire, he makes them an offering of fire and sends fire from heaven upon them, to which they don't survive, and they're left, their burned corpses are left in the tabernacle. Aaron reacts to that. Of course, he's not thrilled with the whole situation, but he understands what God is doing because God says his people must be holy. If you're going to be holy before the Lord, maybe don't go against what he says. That's the lesson of Leviticus 10. And of course, there's more stuff to dive into. If you want to, you can check out the written page, which has more details about each of these individual events. And if not, then I guess I'll see you next week, where we're reading Leviticus 11 through 22.